Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Let's jump right in. So we are living longer, and we used to retire at 65, and maybe we'd be all set. Now people don't have as many savings. People are still hoping to retire at the same age. Do we need to change the way we do this?
Well, can you change your intro? We all aren't living longer.
Okay.
All right.
We all hope to be living longer. Let's say
no,
that.
I mean, the biggest finding researchers are discovering is the longevity gap at 65 is growing. So that the gap between people who are at lower socioeconomic status, who are black, working women, their longevity at 65 is hardly increasing. It's increasing, but not as much as white, wealthy men. So we're not all living as longer. The longevity gains aren't distributed equally, and also the retirement wealth that people can draw on after age 62 is actually becoming more unequal. And that's my story when I look at the numbers about what's going on in aging in America. So this idea that we're all in the same boat, we're all enjoying healthier, longer lives just is not the right picture because it's just not accurate.
Okay. What do you guys think about how we're aging in the workplace?
Well, I mean, I think if you step back away for just a moment, Teresa and I and so many others have been talking about this for years as a slow motion crisis, but it's becoming much more of a reality every year as we go through this. And we address the issue of a lack of retirement security for Americans. One of the problems that we're seeing as well is that while we're asking people to work longer, in particular, we see that you can't judge every occupation the same. Some people can work at a much longer level than others, depending upon their occupation. We know that roughly one in four workers between the ages of 55 and 64 are reporting some form of work-related an injury that is causing them a lack of inability to complete or continue their work in the same manner that they had previously. So we know that that's a problem, and we also know that they just don't have the income levels, the income replacement levels, to be able to sustain a living that really is going to help grow our economies, our local economies, our state economies, our national economies, and that's something that we really all need to be concerned with.
So Joan, you work with people that aren't quite ready to stop working. Tell us a little bit about what they see as their kind of retirement or not retirement time.
Well, first of all, we don't use the word retirement because we don't want anybody to retire. We want everybody to keep active and keep healthy, and the more active mentally and physically people are, and the more purpose they have in their lives, the healthier they'll be. There's just a real correlation between that. When people retire in the traditional sense and drop out, they are more prone to disease and other issues, depression, all of these things. At least that's what we've been reading about. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of research with a panel data that shows if you have jobs where you're engaged and you control the pace and content of your work, and you are at higher levels of the pecking order and your job, then work does give you all those good benefits, meaning, engagement, purpose.
The social part of it
But
is
for
so
most people, they have a life outside of work, and the group that I'm working with love the word retirement and love the word decent pension. We're finding that work kills at some level for people who are forced to work because they don't have enough money and they stay in the workforce, that especially for women, it actually increases cortisol levels, it increases stress.
Do you mean for older Americans?
This is over 65. So continuing to work when you have to, for women actually decreases their wealth and their health and well-being. Right. They're more stressed, they have higher levels of depression. And for men, it actually impedes any kind of improvement in health. Voluntary retirement with money is really good for people, and people find ways to have meaning in their life and to stay engaged. So this idea that sort of work is the panacea, is, and sort of pensions are old-fashioned, for my community and the numbers I'm seeing, it's not true. So I understand, we all who have really good engaged jobs want to stay working. The idea is that people should have choices. And we're in a situation where pensions are so bad that people are forced to work.
Well, yeah, tell us about your sorry.
Well, even here in New York, you know, you look around and because I think that there is a direct correlation between workers having a voice at work, okay, through particularly we represent unionized worers, through collective bargaining, and their ability and the likelihood that they're going to have some form of retirement plan. But even here in New York, we see 59% of New Yorkers have nothing. They have no 401k, no pension plan, no form of retirement security. That only leaves them with a very minimal amount of savings and maybe about $15,000 a year in Social Security. That is a crisis. That is an economic crisis, but it's also a personal crisis on many different levels. We know if you look at the numbers here in New York City, it's 68% versus 81%. 68% of those, 81% of New York City workers have some sort of pension plan versus 68% of those who don't. Okay, have who don't work in the union have some sort of plan. But the thing is this: is that, and then nationally the numbers go down even more. So it's. I think that you have to look at the bigger picture. I think you have to look at the financial ramifications and the consequences, really what this means economically and individually. We're asking people to make a choice at the end of their life that they're going to work until they either they die or come very close to death, or they're going to be retired with a level of dignity. Are they going to have the ability to have a voice at work and negotiate for those things? Because as we know, and as I say, we represent 1.3 million unionized workers here in the city. And the likelihood that you have a voice at work means that there's a likelihood that you're going to have some sort of retirement plan and some sort of retirement with dignity, which is good for society, it's good for everybody.
Well, so tell us about your members. Are they, when they reach 65, are they done? Can they retire? Are they ready to...
Well, it varies tremendously. It really does, because we represent construction workers, we represent private sector workers, we represent municipal employees. So there are a multitude of different types of retirement plans that have been negotiated over the years. Because it's so, if you look, for instance, take a sanitation work. I mean, the grueling effects of just every single day hauling garbage in the streets of the city and throwing them that beats up your body, you know, firemen, police officers. I mean, things, so it all depends really on the type of work that you do. A construction worker, I come out of the construction industry, and you know, you try to go in the streets of New York City for 20, 30, 40 years and run a jackhammer. I mean, you're not going to have much of a spine left after that. And to ask people at 55, 65 that hey, well, maybe you can work another 10 years, I don't think that's the right thing to do. But more importantly, economically, it doesn't make sense.
But economically, can they stop working?
Well, right now, the problem is with the union, yes.
Yeah.
But those who don't have the benefit of collective bargaining and a voice at work, the answer quite often is no. And as I said, if you look at this massive group of workers in New York, we know that 59% have nothing. Yes, the numbers drop down, are much better for those of unionized workers, right? But at the same token, nationally, we see the numbers that are the same. And this correlation between having the ability to negotiate, discuss these things at work, discuss about the future of workers, about the future of their retirement, and really being able to do something about it is much more effective.
See, our program is designed for people who have choices. Clearly, we're talking about a somewhat different demographic. We're talking about people who want to continue working, and we're talking about people who also want a balanced life. What we call the Encore life is a balanced life. You have the leisure that you have perhaps missed while you've been working very hard, and you also wake up one morning and say, I want to do something that gives back. I want to help other people. I want to help my community. I want to get involved in something different from what I've been doing over the past 20, 30, 40 years. So they have choices to make, and the longevity revolution that's going on, meaning that people are going to live into their 80s and 90s, and eventually, apparently the first person who's going to live to be 100 easily and in relative, all things being equal, you know, health has already been born. And the children that are being born today are going to be much healthier, hopefully, and you know, older. So what we think of as, or have thought of as retirement is now could be half your life. It could be the second half of life
Well, so-
for our people. So we want to get them involved in the nonprofit sector, in doing good works. We call it second acts for the greater good. We want to get them involved in making the world a slightly better place.
Well, we've talked a little bit about, choices here, but if you have to work, as you're getting older, are there opportunities out there? Are you finding, you hear a lot about ageism. We spoke about that a little bit. Do you think there are ways that you can work, not as a construction worker, not backbreaking work? What are the opportunities if you want to continue to work?
There's lots of research to show that age discrimination is actually quite rampant, and it's unwarranted. Older people learn a little bit slowly, but not by any significant amount, and the training actually is just as effective. I'm getting emails from older people, women in their late 50s, who say that they know that they're not getting interviewed because of their age. I think that we can solve a lot of our shared concerns, a stronger economy, a really stronger, richer life with more money. And the only way people can have choices is if they have a pension. And all of us should not believe the canard that we're all living longer, therefore we should work longer. Because one of the big reasons that people are living longer is because Social Security and Medicare actually provided income security in old age. The biology data, the data from the medical profession, shows that if you have a lot more leisure time and you have some control over your pace and content of your time and you have income security, it adds to health. So they're not uncorrelated, that we have good pensions, good health, Medicare, and we have longer lives. And we're finding if you take away that income security, you're going to have people struggling to work, but also we could have a reversal in this longevity. So it's really important for us to fight for pension plans. Mostly they do come from unions in this country. Union workers don't get pensions for free. They actually set aside a lot more of their pay to get those pensions. And that's because unionized employers and unions set up decent ways to save for your retirement. Everybody does want to save for their retirement. We just don't have very decent vehicles unless you're actually in a union or in a big employer.
Well, you have a proposal for a better way to save.
By the way, very, very briefly, it's a lot of my proposal is actually being a reality in 27 states. Some states have even passed it.
And just tell them it's called Guaranteed Retirement?
It's called Guaranteed Retirement Account. It could also be called Social Security Plus. It's really simulating what people who were unionized had, which is at work, you save more on top of Social Security. Social Security is pay as you go. It's a great intergenerational program. Current workers pay for old people with the idea that they'll get it back. But this plan is advance funded, and it's invested professionally. All of you who are managing your 401k, you're not doing a good job. Either am I. Just face it. And you would not be very good at pulling your own teeth or doing your own electricity. And we have a very, very ridiculous, gerrymandered way of saving for retirement. So my plan that I'm writing with a co-author, Tony James, just sort of takes out that system. Everybody saves for their retirement in a pooled account, and it adds on to your income when you retire when you collect your Social Security.
But some people are already worried about Social Security not working or there not being enough. Why would this work in a way that it didn't?
I just want to say to everyone, Social Security is going to be fine. All we really need to do is raise the FICA tax. I know I sound like every other person, just raise the taxes. But really, if we raise the FICA tax by another % or 2, there's going to be no impact on job creation or really well-being. And what you get back from that is a secure retiree population. Also, we have to raise the earnings cap. Right now, Bill Gates or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton is treated as if they only earn $118,500 per year. If we just raise that cap and make all the 8% of the Americans pay for the whole year. Some people, 50 people actually. My student Alex, calculates this every year, there are about 50 people, 1,000 people who stop paying their Social Security tax when their hangover diminishes on January 2nd, or they go back to work on January 4th. They're finished. They've already earned $118,000. Just raise the cap, bring in more money, and Social Security will be just fine.
Okay, great. Well, Joan, so we figure out how to help people save more. Then they have the choice, perhaps.
Then they can come to us.
Yes, yes.
And we
yes.
can tell them what they should do for the second half
And it'd
of
be
their
so
lives,
great,
how
and
they
that's
can make
great.
the world a better place with
Yeah.
their skills, with their experience, with their talent, with their motivation.
So what's the
with their
benefit?
Inspiration.
I mean, I like the idea of stopping working entirely. Maybe I won't like that, when it comes time. But
You'll get over that.
Most people
what's the
do.
benefit of continuing to work after your first career is done?
Well, there are, as we've said, there are definite health benefits on the very most basic level, but we're also, reading a lot of studies that say people just simply want to do something. They want to create a legacy. They want to live a legacy, not just leave a legacy. They want to do something to make the world that has been good to them a slightly better place for their children and their grandchildren and the people that come after them. Especially with the boomer population, there is a very strong sense of purpose and wanting to have purpose in your life and get up in the morning and not 7 days a week, not 60-hour weeks. There's still time to do whatever else they enjoy doing, but to do something that will make them feel much better, much about themselves as people than. And I don't mean any particular, but crunching numbers every day, for example. One day we have a lot of accountants who come to and they say, I just can't do this one more day. I've got to do something that makes me feel good. This is not making me feel good anymore. So these are we are fortunate. We have people with choices. And
Well, we hear
the
a lot about
choice is to do
ageism.
something.
Will people hire them into different careers?
Yes, well, ageism is rampant, not just in the public sector, in the nonprofit, not just in the private sector, the nonprofit sector too. But I think part of what our people who come through our program and the people that we talk to understand is that what we call Encore people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and we had somebody in our program who was 84. And he came in and he said, look, I've got enough money to live and I'm healthy and I want to do something. So I think that directors and leaders of the nonprofit sector are beginning to see that there is a whole population of people that can add enormous value to their undertaking and help them further their mission. The second half is part of what we say is the second half is more about mission than money. It's about finding something that makes your heart beat a little bit faster, that you've always sort of wanted to do, whether it's working with young people, whether it's working with older people. And I would just digress for 1 second and say it is absolutely imperative that we change the language about growing older, that we stop talking about aged and aged, and these things have such a negative connotation. The minute you talk about an old person, you see somebody, just disabled and doddering, and older people is slightly better. But if anybody could come up with a term to describe this new age that we are looking at, just like somebody, I forget who it was, and I read it, maybe somebody out there knows, somebody came up with adolescence. We need a term to talk about people who are in the second half of their lives.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
You got one?
I have a question. Are you worried about a lot of people going to nonprofits and offering their services on a volunteer basis, actually undercutting the wages of people in nonprofit organizations?
We sort of think of people as a complement with an E to the paid staff. But a great many of our transitioners, our students that come to our workshops, want jobs. They don't just want to volunteer. We certainly encourage people to start out by volunteering because it's a good way to get your feet wet, to see whether there's a very different culture in the nonprofit world than the for-profit world. You know, decisions aren't made by one person, they're made, you know, you have to, everybody's got to agree on.
So they're
what's-
volunteering to be an unpaid intern, but they
Unpaid,
do
right.
want, they do want a job.
They do ultimately want a job of some, it may be 3 days a week, it may not be 5 days a week. It may be project-oriented as opposed to a full-time job. Come in and get a nice meaty project. Nobody licks stamps anymore because you have email. So that job is already out. But people want to be recognized for the value
Yeah.
they add. And I don't
And they
think
want
that
pay.
they're there to replace paid staff. I think
No,
they're
it's a
there
good question,
to
though.
support the.
As more people enter or stay in the labor force for longer, is that going to create downward pressure on wages?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that
It always
one,
has.
one of the issues that we have, we again, we get back to the state of the worker in the prime of their working careers. We talk about this, I like to almost refer to it as a transition point of their careers. I think it's a much healthier term and a much healthier approach for society and for individuals to look at when they get to certain points in their careers. But we want them to be able to have options,
Right.
financial options, career options. They're not going to have certain options if other conditional things didn't happen in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s,
Yeah.
and then later on their 50s. The momentum,
Yeah.
which is going to work economically against our cities and our states, the pressure, we talk about the forms of public assistance and other means that we need to be able to reach out to workers when they don't have these basic, a basic level of income. And as we begin to talk about retirement and transitioning, replacement income, those options to do the things like this are very, very, very limited.
Right.
So.
Great. Well, we have a little bit of time for questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, raise your hand. It looks like we have one right there.
Good call.
Bruce Resnick, and I was in the news business for a lot of years. Just a response from you. I found in attempting to volunteer to other things that I've been treated trivially with a lack of respect, in the sense that there isn't sort of a social contract the way college interns are exploited. And is there a need, do you see this, and do you see the need for sort of a paradigm change where all the workers or volunteers or whatever can be treated in the context of a social contract that here's work, here's what you do, and you're treated with respect rather than sort of trivialized silk stocking, development, raise money, disrespect?
That's a great question. Joan, do you have a thought about that?
The essence of
Basically, is there a need to create a cultural change, almost so kind of older interns or older volunteers are more accepted or welcomed, just like college interns would be?
I mean, a college intern and an Encore intern, actually, we sort of don't. Everybody see the movie with
Yeah.
Robert De Niro? They bring an entirely different level of experience and knowledge and set of skills. The intern, the college intern is there to learn. The Encore intern is there to teach. And so I think that's a very different, part of what the Encore movement is now beginning to talk about, and there's a wonderful organization that is the thought leader in this called Encore.org, and if any of you are interested in this whole Encore concept, I encourage you to take a look at it. But part of what they've got a new initiative going where they're trying to get the older people and younger people together and work, learn and teach each other. There's and I've always thought that our program would be wonderful if we could pair the younger people with some of our Encore transitioners because they could teach and learn from each other. For example, our people, a lot of them are a little behind in technology. The younger people are, way ahead. So in something like that, they could work with each other and help and teach each other. So that's another part of it too. But the answer to your question is no. They bring entirely different sets.
But it's possible that there's a need for a cultural change to kind of understand that, and maybe with more programs like Encore, that will start to change. One more question? Yep.
Sure. I'm Beth Finkel. I'm the state director for AARP New York. I want to just compliment all of you because what you're saying are issues that we're all working on all the time, and I can call out each one of you in terms of partnerships that we've worked on together. But Teresa, the point that you were making about a state-facilitated retirement fund, I think, is so important, and that's something that we're working on because in New York State, back to your point, Joe, 3.5 million New Yorkers who work in private industry have no way to save within their workplace, which is very scary when you think about what happens when they approach their retirement. We've been researching, doing one-on-one interviews with boomers and Gen Xers for a while now. What we found was that almost 25% of them do not have any money put away for retirement, and in fact are thinking that they're going to have to literally work till they drop, which is exactly what you just said. Yeah. So I hope that we can galvanize the audience to look at the fact that both in New York City and New York State there is policy moving forward very, very quickly. So if you feel passionate about this, let your legislators know, let the governor know, let the mayor know, number one. And number two, I'm so excited about all of this work and everything that's coming up on the program, and it makes, our CEO just wrote a book called Disrupt Aging, which I think really hits a number of policy issues that you're going to be hitting today. So I'm so thankful for this dialogue, and I can't thank you all enough.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much to our panelists. This was a really great discussion, and unfortunately we're out of time, but we have a lot more coming up. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks to
Thank you.